Hello, and welcome back, I guess I should say, to the UV Effect podcast. My name is Gabrielle Jordan, and it has been a hefty year or so. I think about a year and a half since the last episode, since the last season. But I am so excited to be back, and in a different way. So, if you are a returning listener and you remember anything about the last few seasons of the UV Effect podcast, then you know that we were kind of, the forum was interview kind of forum and just kind of talking about topics and things that were going on. I interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs and thought leaders, and you just had conversations surrounding their life story and also what made them individuals, and so what made their story so exciting and incredible as individuals. And that was really great. I think it was a fantastic format for that time. But in coming back, I decided that I wanted to change it up a bit. I decided that I wanted to find a way to be able to inform you all about unique value through the journey of unlocking it. It sounds a bit cryptic, but it'll make a lot of sense. But for those of you who don't know what the UV effect is, what unique value is, you're completely new to this concept, I will give you a brief little overview. It's a concept I've been working on since I was 13 years old, and it's based off of a pre-existing entrepreneurial concept, which is a unique value proposition. It's a term used in business that defines what a company will bring to the table that's different from other companies, and how they will provide that's different, and how they'll reach their customers in a different way, right? And so with that idea in mind, throughout the past few years, I have been seeing how this idea, this unique value proposition, how as individuals, we should be having one for ourselves. We should understand our own unique value proposition. I genuinely believe in the concept that everybody has purpose. I know a lot of people wonder, what's my purpose in the world? And, I don't necessarily believe that everybody has like that one overall purpose, that one thing that they're supposed to do in their life, whatever, that idea, that the chosen one or the hero's journey kind of concept. But what I do believe is that everybody has purpose. Everybody has something to offer to the world in only the way that they can offer it, that they are a tool, and they are designed to impact and to make change and to affect people, whether it be on a global scale or on a local scale or, just one person, I think we are all designed with a purpose. And the goal of unique value and the UV effect, which is the unique value effect, is to help someone, show someone, allow that person to understand their design, to understand their unique value, and to unlock the UV effect, the fact that they can have on themselves, the way they see themselves, on their work, on their on their profession, and in the people around them. So that's the concept behind UV. And so for the last few years, I have been, like I said, working it out. And sharing it and talking about it and speaking about it. I think I first introduced it when I was 13 at this big event where I was receiving an award. It was a McDonald's 365 event, and I received an award there, and I gave this rousing acceptance speech. No. But I gave this acceptance speech, and I had, ended it off with, your unique value is, or the world is waiting for you to bring your unique value to the world, something like that. It was good. It was really good, if you can just believe me. And then as I've been developing, I've shared it on big national stages like Inbound to international stages in Dubai. So it's been a really interesting journey just sharing this with people and even understanding it fuller for myself. And this year, I think, maybe it was COVID or just, a build-up, but I have really felt the push to introduce this in a more public sense, or at least in a more personal sense. I guess maybe that's more what I mean. And so that's why I'm starting the podcast back up, as well as working on a few other projects in order to help you, the individual who is looking for purpose, the individual who is searching and seeking understanding of themselves and who they are in the world, and the impact that they can have on people's lives, to you, to help you to figure out, to identify, define, and embrace your unique value. So this year, I have been working on conducting some research. I've been, using people, taking individuals and testing the formula that I have created on these individuals. It's a question-based formula broken down into 3 steps. And I've been, going through the formula with individuals to help them to understand and uncover their unique value. And I've been recording all of it. And I'm still doing it, but I've been recording all of it. And since I started recording it, I was listening back to the audio and, whatever. And I started realizing that this was some good stuff to share with other individuals. And so with the consent of those that I've recorded, they are allowing me to share, the highlights, the interesting parts of this journey or this research with you all. And so that's what the UV Effect podcast now is going to be. I'm going to be sharing with you all some of the highlights of these people's journeys to uncovering their unique value through this formula and through the research that we've done. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting to hear. It was really interesting for me to be going through it with them. And you'll be hearing kind of the insight that I shared, help them to guide them along to getting their unique value statement, as well as how to utilize it in the real world. And their input and their stories and their thoughts and processing was so interesting, and I am really excited to share that with you guys, especially since I think it's a really good introduction for those of you who don't know about UV, and I think it's a great way to see even the immediate impact that can happen at the moment that you even realize it for yourself. I think I've rambled on for about enough time, and now I really want to let's get into the first study, or this episode's first study. And the first study I actually did was with my mom, and that is who we're going to be sharing today. Her name is Marcella, and I think she was great. She was a great first study for sure, and she has really great insight. And if you are an individual who was maybe analytical but also very creative, and you're kind of see how these two worlds work with you, and how they operate in the real world, how to use these gifts and talents, I think she was really good for that, because that's really her, and we got to see exactly how these gifts and more operated for her unique value. But in this episode, we're going to be focusing just on the first step, which is identifying innate gifts, which is what makes us unique. This will all become a little bit more clear as we go along. But I definitely should just sit back and relax and listen to this study. I think it was really interesting, and I will be kind of coming in and out to give little insights and just my thoughts on certain parts of the highlights that I'm sharing. But yeah, I hope that you enjoy. Okay. Your unique value. So the first step is identify. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to ask you a series of questions within this section to help you to identify your unique, what makes you unique. Okay. So let's start with, how would you describe yourself in 6 words? 3 of the words, I want them to be positive observations, and then 3 of the words, I want them to be negative observations, critical observations, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're still what you would consider with yourself. No. Even be critical, but actually, what do you see as negative about yourself? Is there anything about yourself that you see as negative?
I'm always going to start with positive.
Yeah.
I am intuitive,
okay,
empathetic. Trying to think of something besides. You said positive about myself.
What's something you like about yourself, and that what you like about yourself?
Right. loving.
Okay. And then 3 things that, that you would consider negative.
Judgmental.
Okay.
Somewhat self-centered and messy.
Okay. Cool. So you have intuitive, empathetic, and loving, and then on the opposing side, judgmental, self-centered, and messy.
Yeah, but okay, so messy, I put messy, but it's really, if I look at everything around, it's really a lack of discipline. No, it's discipline. What's the opposite of discipline?
Unorganized?
No, because when I said messy, I was like, well, that's only part of the issues. Yeah, I go with messy, but that's just a symptom.
It's okay.
That's what I overthink things.
So this first question, having the individual, Marcella, describe herself in 6 words, is really an exercise in self-awareness and getting the person conscious of how they see themselves and what they like about themselves, what they don't like about themselves, and also being very honest with what they find is beneficial about themselves and what they feel like they need to work on. This whole process is about self-awareness, and so I really wanted to start right off the bat with that. I know some people struggle with this. This is not something my mom struggles with, but this first questioning was all about getting that self-awareness muscle working and thinking about who we are as individuals and how we see ourselves. This next moment was her answering a question that I found I put there as a great transition from self-awareness of just the self to purpose and what you're best at, what you're made for, kind of starting to get the thought processes going in that direction. And I think it was just a good moment to start thinking deeper, and, her process in that I think was really good. So this is what she had to say to the question that was being posed, which was, how would you describe your relationship with your profession?
It's a part of my calling.
Before you answer that, what would you describe your profession? You said this under your profession, which would be like the financial professional, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so make sure it's a part of your calling. Anything else?
It's something that I enjoy doing because it allows me to feel like I'm making an actual difference in people's lives.
So that first answer, was really good, but I really wanted her to kind of start digging a little bit deeper as to what does she do in terms of that relationship. What does she do in her profession that does allow her to make a difference in people's lives? This is what she said. Like when you do something, like when you're...
So it's 2 parts.
In your profession.
One part is that I'm actually assisting my partner. So internally, I'm making a difference in the life of my partner because I'm creating systems and structures that allowing to make his job, that helps make his job a little easier. And doing that, we're helping our clients get a better understanding of their finances and financial mindset so they can make a difference in the lives of their families or change their financial future.
And so from there, this next question I ask is used to not necessarily counter, but almost to have you questioning the attachment that you have to this work, even more so how much of yourself you link with the work. So you'll see what that's about. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with leaving your profession? So whether you had to or wanted to, are you comfortable with finding another source of income or profession? Before I play her answer, I just wanted to cut in and say how I think this question is really important because as individuals, I do think that we tend to define ourselves by the work that we do, believing that what we do is who we are. And I think that's dangerous. And I think it's definitely something to question because it wasn't there when you were born. It can't be what defines you. And so I think it's an important thought process to go down when you are trying to understand yourself further and truly understand who you are, what truly defines who you are. And I found that Marcella, I feel like I want to say her name, but just because it's more professional, but it's weird to say my mom's name. I find that my mom's answer was really good. especially, and even relatable for those who are thinking in a broader sense, but still really do enjoy the work that they do.
10 being very comfortable.
1 being not comfortable at all.
I would say 5, I guess.
Why is that?
I'll try to find something in the middle because I'm always open to possible life changes. And while I love what I do, I think I'm good at a lot of things. And the best part of what I do is administrative. And that can go in a lot of different places.
Nice. Okay. So piggybacking right off of that, what would that new, like if you had to do something else, right, you had to shift, what would that new profession or source of income be? And you said that administration is a part of that, so maybe you can think along those lines, but what would you think that new field would be?
Oh, jeez.
That response is funny. I just feel like that makes like a lot of sense and just generally like anybody would respond that way. There'd be a few things if you can't figure out one.
Okay.
And make sure we're basing this off of your enjoyment and also with your relationship to your current profession, making sure that there is a level of equality or even more, more enjoyment that you would get from a different profession. Right?
Gotcha. Right now, I think it's psychology.
Anything else, or that's the one you think?
It's too broad. Anything else is too broad to say something that have to do with kids, but that's entirely too broad.
No, it's fine.
Because there are areas the kids I absolutely do not want to work in.
What specifically would you want to do with a kid then? Like, how would you want to, work with children?
It wouldn't be equivalent to a job. That would strictly be a volunteer thing.
What would that be?
Working what we already do, Excel.
Okay, so education.
Education.
Okay.
Not a teacher.
Youth education.
Right.
Why do you think these two professions are something that you would do well in?
Love children.
Call towards. Okay.
The two, psychology too.
Yeah. Just why do you think you're drawn to these? Yeah.
I'm a good listener.
Okay.
Empathy. And it's just the two things I've always loved. Okay,
so from here, this next moment, in this next moment, I had her list out the things that she does in her profession and as hobbies. Again, those are external abilities, the skills and the talents that she does within her work, as well as what she does, on the side, her side hustles, whatever, right? And I wanted to share this particular moment because it kind of gives us a little bit of a window into what we find out about her later, which is really exciting. So for one of her hobbies, she puts down music, or one of the things that she enjoys, she puts down music. And in this moment, I have her explain, what she really enjoys about it, why she enjoys it so much. And it's just such a good little peek. I love it.
Oh yeah, so fitness, education.
Fitness and education? Or
fitness education. Hamilton. No, I'm just kidding. That was joking.
If music is something more than...
Music.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. That's... Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. All right. Music. You put music... What specifically would you want to put in music?
Oh, gosh, music
as a hobby.
What
do you do within music that you enjoy, like hobby-wise?
I love music. Hobby-wise, it's like my imagination. So when I listen to music, I can go anywhere from dancing, like what it does to how it makes my body feel, to composing, to like listening to all the different melodies and breaking things down and appreciating it, like analyzing it, to scoring it, like imagining it in a movie or in a scenery and like picturing it playing out.
Yeah.
Or creating something in my head, so it could go from any direction. So it's like a creative outlet.
So as she was speaking, I was typing out like a little bit of a summary of what she was saying, and I had put down what she enjoyed was the imagination aspect of it and the analyzation aspect of music. And she kind of struggled with the idea that analyzation could be a hobby.
Is that a hobby? Analyzation.
I
analyze it, but yeah. I guess you're right. That's what I do. I analyze it, and that's fun to do. So yes.
Yeah. I'm not sure how interesting of a moment that was to you as it was for me, but I just found that it was a great visual example of how we sometimes like question what we enjoy, who we are, because of I guess the ideas of what people expect, or what is expected or relatable for most people. But realizing that, yeah, I mean, if analyzing is fun for you, then I guess that is a hobby, and we shouldn't feel that we have to question that just because it's not, I guess, the most relatable concept or universal idea. And it kind of happens again here as I'm wrapping up her list of hobbies with her.
I'm like, sheesh, I don't really have anything girly that I do.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all.
I know it doesn't matter. I just think I was going to make sure I'm not missing something on that side of me.
I guess music's girly, I don't know.
Not even, but it is the most personal thing.
Just to go off a little bit, would you consider yourself a girly person?
No, clearly not. I'm like, makeup, hair, like, is there anything I like to do? Like,
again, girly in the standards of American society. That's girly in the...
In an American way. I don't shop her, no.
My mom is very confident in her tomboyish side, and she actually does very much like fashion and everything like that. But what I really liked about this particular part was how, that questioning transitioned us into another aspect of ourselves that we hadn't, about her, that we hadn't talked about before. And so I think that transition was really nice, and you're good to see it here. But I would say that you do appreciate certain things,
yes,
like architecture, not architecture, but home design, interior decorating. Would you mind if I put that down? Because I feel like that might be something along those lines, or no?
Let me think about, like, there's something, I feel like it's something more specific. Like this morning, as I couldn't sleep all morning thinking about stuff, and I was thinking about this room. I was like, okay, this is the next project. Like, Abby and I work on this room. Mm-hmm. So I have one thing I do like is,
would you call it interior decorating projects? Visual projects?
Maybe visual projects.
Okay.
Because I don't really enjoy the task of design like you do.
Okay.
But I like thinking about, I like imagining it and creating it, but the doing part isn't where I find the most joy.
Would you call it project design?
Yeah, I'd go with project design.
Okay.
Design, yes.
I just want to make sure, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm trying to help to kind of...
No, that was helpful because I just needed a way to describe. I don't know how to describe what I'm looking for, but it's just, I have a really good imagination, so I'm trying to figure out how that should be in there some way. I just don't know how to... I'm really good at visualizing things.
This we'll come back to. That we will come back to, for sure. Okay. What's really great here is how, like, tradition isn't truth. It's just accepted, ideas, right? And so I just found that this kind of series of questionings, or her questioning the traditional aspects of what is feminine and whatever, was a great bridge to identifying this piece of her that she's actually, that's something that she's very, very good at. But we hadn't even really tapped in it yet. And so I liked that questioning of tradition was, or ideals, was what led us to understanding or even thinking about this part of her that she's, that actually really stands out as a huge aspect of what she's so talented at. And we ended up putting it down as project design, but we end up kind of, refining it here a bit, which was really good. Project design, so your concept design.
Yes.
I think that might be better.
Concept design, yeah.
You think? I want to make sure for you.
You said yeah. Well, I guess there are projects that... That's
a good question. It still works with... Because remember you said, too, when you said your enjoyment for your work with... your relationship with your profession, one thing you enjoyed was making your life, your partner's life easier because of the things you've created and the systems you're making.
Yes.
Right? Yes. So, do you think that project design fits better with what you enjoy, or concept design fits better with what you enjoy, or what you do, hobby-wise?
All right, so that's the difficult part because, we're talking about business and personal, and while they overlapped, because that's very similar to that. With the hobby part is more of the design part.
Okay.
So it's almost similar to music.
So I think concept design would be best.
Okay, let's go with concept.
Because concept is a mix of how things will operate.
Yes.
It's a mix of, how it will function, how it will look. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
The concept of a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And seeing as you don't really enjoy doing the thing itself,
yes,
you enjoy the concept more than the actual action.
I like concept design.
Okay. And then so from there, we kind of go on a flip side in a bit. I'm at this point, I'm asking her about to rate her enjoyment and aptitude for this another external ability. It's for data entry, and so she says. So data entry, enjoyment. And she also gives aptitude a 5 as well. And so, you think they're like, oh, okay, so she's a nerd. She calls herself a nerd. It's fine. So she's a nerd. So what does that have to do with then, like, the creative aspect of herself? How does this tie together? And, as she explains the reason why she's apt at this, we start to uncover some things. Why
it's
5?
Easy to do.
Why is it easy for you?
I'm detail-oriented, so I'm good at, I just pick up on what things need to go where.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this starts to bring this overall picture together as we fast forward here towards the end of this process where I had her go back through all of the external abilities that she listed, specifically the ones that had, a 5 for enjoyment and a 5 for aptitude. And I had her kind of list the attributes of herself that she felt contributed to her enjoyment and aptitude at that thing. And so in that whole process, we went through this and then we asked a few more questions regarding that. And what it did was it actually allowed her to uncover her or identify her actual innate gifts. And then so at this point, we're kind of getting this, we're seeing how they operate within her. We're seeing how they function. And we kind of get this full circle picture of how her analytical side and her creative side works together.
Okay, so here is what I think is an example of imagination and analytical. Mm-hmm. Let's say, okay, we're putting this room together, right? I'm imagining how this room could look. Mm-hmm. So that's the imagination part, creativity. Okay, so the creativity. But where the analytical part comes in is, okay, let's say, we could put this here. But then I'm like, okay, how practical is that? Like, what can go there? Storage, is that a good use of that space? Mm-hmm. Measurements, da-da-da. And so while I feel like my imagination part is the bigger picture, mm-hmm. then I get narrowing it down and I get into a more analytical, strategic, then I become more practical.
So yeah, we really got to see here how these two gifts, very dominant gifts, operated within her and operates within her. But for the sake of my research, I really wanted to get a little bit deeper into it. I wanted to now see how all of her gifts could operate within her, how they all function, maybe even as a unit. So I asked this other question that's coming up now in order to answer two questions. One, are there just some gifts that are more dominant than others that operate more strongly with an individual? And two, how so? How do when our gifts are working in one combination, when all of them are working in a combination, what does it allow us to do? What do we do best? And for her, I wanted to ask her that very question. What is all of her gifts operating in a unit, or at least these dominant ones operating in a unit, look like? Let's say you did. Let's see. What one thing would you be using? Being analytical, being imaginative, being self-aware, being empathetic, and being self-regulatory all at one time. What type of thing? What thing would you do? Like, what external ability would be used with those 5 things? Your innate gifts. So
list them again, because I know the answer, but
analytical, imaginative, self-aware, empathetic, and self-regulatory.
Singing.
That's interesting. That's really cool. I'm going to let her, we're going to go into more of our explanation for this. I'll play that in a bit, but I thought that this was something I wanted to pull because if you remember, I shared that a moment earlier where she had answered when she was talking about, her hobbies, and I asked her to talk further about music, why she loved it, and she was discussing that she liked, imagining and imagery and, like, breaks it down, loves analyzing it and everything, and we had talked about that. And so it's really cool that, this was brought back up through singing. It's not something that she does professionally or even, she does sing a lot. This house is literally a musical. She sings all the time. But, it made a lot of sense why she said that this was the external ability that she could directly see that all of these dominant gifts are being used through because, she does it all the time, and she's able to really analyze that. And so in this questioning here, I'm asking her to kind of rate how dominant these innate gifts are through this particular gift.
Out of 5, how analytical would you be in singing?
5.
Okay. Out of 5, how imaginative would you be in singing?
I'm gonna say 5. Okay, I'll say imaginative.
So, be creative
5.
with the way that you sing and, like, look.
5 and where I'd be, how, so yeah, 5. Okay.
No,
I would
what
say
do you mean?
4 and 5.
What do you mean specifically where you'd be?
Because, in my head, what I'm imagining as I'm singing.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, self-aware. How self-aware would you be?
5. I'm observing every note, every detail.
Empathetic. How empathetic would you be in the singing? Empathetic does not mean being aware of your own emotions or being aware of other emotions.
If I'm to engage, it has to be 5. Like,
but for you, when you sing, not even if you're not, like, in front of a crowd, like, you're just
right
singing, maybe even just there's happens to be somebody else in the room or whatever. How in tune are you with the potential emotions that are in that room? How in tune are you with people?
What is it, like, shut up?
Well, really, how in tune would you be with that person's emotion?
Okay, because I say, am I in tune with the words of the song?
That's another thing too. It's all empathetic,
right? Because I feel very in tune with the words of the song. And if there's someone in the room, I would be very in tune with. Okay, is this person annoyed by me singing?
So,
it's a 5 because I am drawing a lot of emotion out of the song and people.
Okay, and then self-regulatory. How much out of 5?
Okay, so maybe I'm understanding the adjusting part. I would go with. I'm thinking to go with 4 just because I'm struggling. So if I'm struggling, I would have to say 4. Mm-hmm. But let me go with 4.
Okay. So. Yeah, so this is really interesting.
It is interesting.
And this was interesting because what this had shown to me was, so my initial hypothesis of this was that innate gifts, things that are born within us, that we are born with, that these things, they operate in a sense of, like, some are more dominant, as in they show up stronger than other gifts. Some gifts aren't as dominant as others. And this series of questioning, it did confirm that all of the gifts that we had uncovered in this time and that we were going to be uncovering at this point were dominant. They were all dominant as they showed up first, as they were what could be easily pinpointed, so that made sense. But as we went through, like I was asking her to rank the dominance of these gifts out of 5 through this particular external gift of singing, most of them were 5. There was only one that was about a 4. And so there was something about that for me that got me thinking. And it got my mom thinking, too. So as we were wrapping up this first section, this step 1, identify, and I was kind of giving her the final overview of how the innate gifts operate within her, she came back with a counter to how it actually might be operating. And I think it was absolutely spot on.
So for you, seeing that being analytical, imaginative, self-aware, and empathetic are your most dominant gifts. Being self-regulatory is still a dominant one, but it's not as dominant. Mm-hmm. Another person might have maybe the same list of gifts, probably something else would be changed up, but may have the same list of gifts, but maybe their self-aware is less, or their empathy is more, right? Mm-hmm. So it's this very distinct, this very unique combination of the way that you operate that makes you unique.
Okay, so as you saying that, so here's where my imagination goes.
Mm-hmm.
As you say that, it almost makes me think of a soundboard. You know, when you're on the big soundboards and the how they get all these sounds, that imagery, because each one of those little nozzles creates such a specific sound.
Yes.
Like if you think of music, and back to music again, if you think of music and the amount of songs that were created and how it would seem impossible not to make the same song notes over and over again, right? And obviously you're seeing how things overlap, but yet they're completely different songs. But you'll hear certain things in certain songs, like, oh, that's from that song, but it's a totally different song. It's a totally unique song. So I'm seeing that, what you're saying, because someone else can have the same 5 things that I have, but their range is different.
This was great. I mean, it's such a good explanation, and it was even more wonderful just to see how her innate gifts actually just helped to create around this. I mean, my mom has been a backbone behind what I have done in my career, in my life so far. She is what keeps me standing straight, 100%. And so I've always known where her talents had lied, but it's so funny here to see how her innate gifts helped me to see the bigger picture of what innate gifts are and how they operate, right? And I loved that I was able to get that from her, and through this research and through this experience, and it's really good imagery, as it shows that your innate gifts, they operate, like she said, like this soundboard through certain external abilities. So in one external ability, you might for her, let's say, put her, for example, her innate gifts, if she is working on administrative tasks through her work, through her business, the analytical innate gift, the self-regulatory innate gift might really be at the top because she's able to, and even maybe the empathetic innate gift could be more at the top because she's like aware of others, what they need, but also is good at looking at the details, right? But then, let's say she is developing, a concept for a speech or for a program that she's working on, then I think maybe the more imaginative aspects of herself and analytical aspects of herself would be, turned up and being used in this through that external ability. So it's not so much about, one innate gift being more dominant than the other, but more so that through certain external abilities, your innate gifts have the opportunity to have dominance, right? I thought that was really great, and some really interesting imagery and a really good look into how our innate gifts, our natural abilities operate within ourselves. It was really exciting. And so, that will conclude the first aspect, or the first step of Identify for Miss Marcella, my mama. I'm going to break down, I think in the next episode, I'll have the second part where I have both step 2 and step 3 combined. So you'll be able to listen in on the final of her process of her being able to define and embrace her unique value. And that gets really exciting because we're going to find out her unique value statement, and how to use it, and how she's going to operate in her unique value in a more intentional way. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode of the UV Effect podcast. I hope that you enjoy this new format. If you have any opinions or thoughts about it, be sure to DM me on Instagram. My handle is Gabrielle Jordan, INTL, and you send me a message. Also, if you are interested in being a part of the research that I'm doing on the UV effect and unique value, and possibly would like to be a part of the podcast, maybe having your journey or your study being shared on the podcast, be sure to DM me on Instagram as well, and we can talk, because I would love to have as many people on here as possible and help you to identify, define, and embrace your unique value. Thanks again for joining me, and join me next week for the second part. See you then.